When did the class clown take it too far? Pulled out a chair from underneath a kid thinking it would be really funny when the kid fell. The kid ended up falling and cracking his head open and getting around 30 stitches. Lit a Roman candle on our bus ride home. Cops showed up and he went right out the back door and kept running. Never came back to school. Kid was always doing dumb stunts just to make people laugh. He got sick of climbing on / in random things and jumping stairs one day and decided it'd be funny to smack into walls. His first few walls were fine as they were all concrete. There was a girl crying in the hallway and he figured he could make her laugh by making a funny face and tackling the glass door. He went through the door and needed stitches, leaving splatters of blood and broken glass on the way to the office. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. This was no small line, mind you. I actually think he was rubbing it off the candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye. Ran out of the room and later saw an ambulance come to the school. Don't do drugs. When he ate part of the squid we were dissecting. Stomach pump for you, chuckles. My high school class clown made a joke in a dead silent classroom about boning a teacher with another teacher in the room. His situation afterwards wasn't great. There was a class clown in my class and another one from the senior class at the time. They'd collaborated to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forget exactly what it was, but there was some kind of very important event going on that day and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they'd done that on any other day, he'd probably just let it go after making them clean it up. They got detention and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor who had to clean that shit up in the dark when it was freezing cold. In a high school classroom with a chill teacher, someone made a joke about another kid's dick being small. So, that kid exposed himself in front of the whole class to prove that it was large. He got suspended. He yelled at my English teacher from across the room, "Your puns are more cancerous than girl's name." She was terminally ill with cancer and never came back to school after that day. Senior year. Teacher wouldn't give her a hall pass to use the bathroom, which was ridiculous. Instead of taking a more conventional stand, like walking out of the room, she sat down in her desk and pissed her pants. She was suspended, I forget for how long. There were editorials back and forth in the school paper. I was on team teachers shouldn't try to control our bowels but also maybe don't piss on the floor, though I do appreciate your taking one for the team. He loaded up porn on someone's computer while they were in the bathroom. Teacher wasn't paying attention and the victim ended up getting suspended. Junior year in high school in Algebra 2, the teacher was kind of a douche, so this one guy, let's call him Mike, would give him a hard time. This was a regular thing, and Mike would get kicked out of class for saying and doing some inappropriate stuff, but we all thought it was hilarious. One day, our teacher didn't show up to class. Word got around that his oldest son had died of a drug overdose and he had to take some personal time off. He didn't show back up until a week later and he looked really sullen and down. During class, Mike pulled out a can of Coca-Cola and started sipping it nonchalantly. Teacher had a strict no eating or drinking in class policy and Mike was aware of this. He told Mike to throw it away and step outside. Mike, the absolute fucking savage, says, "Look, I know you don't like Coke, but I'm sure your son did." Nobody laughed. Just silence. Some people didn't get it. The ones who did were just too shocked to say anything like me. Mike threw his drink away and walked out of the classroom while the teacher just sort of haphazardly continued his lesson, although we could tell Mike's comment fucked him up. My story is pretty similar. The teacher was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Really upbeat and always wanted to help out. His son wound up getting bullied a lot and committed suicide. When he came back, our class clown made a really bad joke/remark about how it was the teacher's fault that his son killed himself. Our teacher got up, walked over to the kid's desk and stopped. The kid tried to make another jab, but the guy pulled the kid out of his seat and started pummeling him and throwing him against anything he could see. Nobody in the class moved, just watched as it happened and saw this snarky kid sobbing, bleeding and just getting destroyed. Our teacher stopped, walked out of the room, and we never saw him again. Apparently there were a bunch of lawsuits and the kid had to go to the hospital for a bunch of wounds, but it was definitely the most intense class I've been a part of. We had a teacher in middle school who had a wig and a glass eye. We had 3 class clowns that teamed up, and at the end of the year, she left just because of their constant disruptions and bullying. I actually really liked her and always felt bad for her. Called our teacher's daughter, whose name is Mia Khalifa. The teacher then proceeded to search up Mia Khalifa in front of the whole class. He tried to pants the teacher. When I was in 3rd grade, we were all doing our thing, coloring, reading, etc. The class clown was being really noisy and kept goofing off. We were all having fun and the class clown eventually sat down. It wasn't long before he was laying on the floor, foaming out of his mouth, shaking violently. We all laughed. It was a joke, right? Before long the teacher came rushing over to see the new joke the kid came up with. She immediately called 911 and he was rushed out of the room. He had a seizure while the whole class thought he was joking. He recovered and everything was fine. I just feel bad for the kid. Straight up just peed on the floor in the middle of class and convinced the teacher it was spilled water, so he cleaned it up. Honestly, not even class clown shit at that point, just being a gross dick. He didn't get in nearly enough trouble. When he yelled, "I lost my virginity to my dog," during a quiet moment in class. Every head whipped around to stare in horror. Someone in my year at school, who wanted to be a doctor, drank a bottle of antibacterial hand wash for $5. He did it because there is nothing bad in there, his words. Needless to say, he got his stomach pumped. Kid, class clown, in elementary school made fun of a boy no one liked. He was kinda an asshole, but one day the boy said his mom had a miscarriage and the other kid thought it would be a great insult later in the week to tell him something along the lines of, "Your brother is better off dead. It's a good thing your mom had a miscarriage." Don't think we've ever rallied for this asshole kid as hard as we did that day. Not cool. I was at an all-state music festival, basically a concert band that students from the entire state auditioned to perform in during high school, and during some downtime between pieces during the rehearsal, the conductor asked if anyone wanted to come up and say a joke into the mic. One of the percussionists raises his hand, walks up, and tells the following joke. "What do you call a kid with no friends?" "A Sandy Hook survivor." I absolutely could not believe what I heard. This was just weeks or maybe a few months after the shooting. I don't remember if anyone laughed, I don't think they did, and he definitely got a stern talking to. My sophomore year of high school, it was an English class and there were 4 class clowns in the same class. Second semester of school, so it was shortly after I'd been switched from one teacher's class to the new one. During the first semester, there was a student a grade below us that had committed suicide, and the year before that my cousin had done the same. Teacher walked out of the classroom to take something to get printed or something and left the only senior in the class in charge. Both she and I were close to the deceased freshman's family and had struggled with his death together. Not a minute after the teacher left, 2 of the clowns got up and went over to the windows, grabbed the pull string to the blinds, and used it as a noose to hang themselves. Some kids laughed, some kids told them to knock it off, a few just wanted to finish their worksheets, but I had to leave the classroom and I passed the teacher in the hall. She saw I was crying and asked what happened. I was trying to explain while sobbing when the senior came out after chewing the clowns a new one and explained to the teacher what had happened. She actually escorted everyone except the clowns out of the classroom so she wouldn't disturb the other classes around us with how much and how loudly she yelled at them. Friend decided to shove his hands into my back pockets and grab my ass, wasn't wearing a belt. Ended up panting me straight to the floor. I was wearing spandexy type underwear at the time, caught those on the way down too and ended up like pulling it down to where my dick sprung out of them. What was bad was worse, as our track coach had just walked in looking for me and she got a full frontal. Not to mention the class saw everything as well as I tried to pull my pants up only to realize my dick was out on full display. Didn't even get detention SMH. In my English class we all tried to be class clowns most of the time, however the one time my friend took it too far was when at the end of the class, The teacher would go round picking up all the textbooks from each table while we stood waiting. When the teacher came round to collect his textbook, she lifted it up and my friend had unzipped his trousers and put his wanger through and hidden it under the book. She screamed and everyone else was so shocked at the sight of him stood there with his wanger flopped out on the table, but before anyone could say anything, he looks down and pretends to scream in fright as well, as if he did not know what he was looking at, as he lifts his arm up and proceeds to karate chop his own penis in front of my teacher and entire class. The lad got excluded for a day and got put in a new English class.